Hi, welcome to Midwest Magic Cleaning. My name is Gorlock the Impaler, and this week and for the next couple weeks, we're working on, I'm trying to figure a light way to put this, but I don't think there is. It's the most toxic house we've ever worked in. It's the most hoarded place we've ever worked on the whole channel. And there's a bunch of information to get to, so I'm going to try to keep this all straight in my brain because it's a lot to remember. So let's start by pointing out that this is a stage 5 hoard. And a stage 5 hoard does not mean that it's trash from floor to ceiling, though this has a lot of stuff in it. There are quite a few factors in diagnosing the stage of a hoard, and one of them is the amount of clutter. But the other factors that go into that is there working water? Do they have heat or air conditioning? Does the sewer work? Are there infestations of roaches, mice? Are there leaks in the roof or ceiling? She checks all those boxes on this house. There are more roaches in this house than any I've ever worked on. There are quite a few mice. I accidentally even cleaned one mouse that I didn't even know was there. I was wiping down a counter and wiped over a live mouse. She hasn't had running water in quite some time. There is at least 5 feet of water in her basement, which then popped up the water heaters from their floor, from their mounting, and they're just floating around in there like fishing bobbers. That's one of the pictures you saw at the beginning of this video. The sewage line is collapsed, so you can't drain any of her sinks. You can't use the toilet. It means there's no shower. She has a couple of buckets around the house where there's been severe water leaks, like above her refrigerator. The smell in the house is pretty overpowering. Now, as we've worked on this, we've only gotten to 2 rooms so far, the dining room and the kitchen. But even cleaning just those 2 rooms so far, we can tell a significant difference in the smell of the house. The lady who lives here is elderly. She does have emphysema, and I actually saw her walk about 20 feet and was so out of breath that she couldn't speak. I've been told by the family that she also has either the beginning stages or the mid stages of kidney failure. If I worked for the state, I would be forced to report this house, and what would happen would be they would put a padlock on it so no one could get in. They would condemn it, and they would force her to leave the premises. No one would be allowed back in this house. It is what I would consider to be a toxic environment. And we'll get to what makes that toxic here in just a minute. I mean, aside from all the mice and the roaches and stuff like that, it is also covered in pet feces and pet urine from head to toe. And one of the problems with that, besides the obvious, is that this has been there long enough to where it's broken down. And when waste like that breaks down, it produces ammonia. And I can smell actual gaseous ammonia going through the whole house. When you have lung problems, if you don't know how ammonia operates, it attaches itself to moisture, and your lungs are mostly moisture. And so with the emphysema and the ammonia in the air, it's causing her breathing problems to be 10 times worse than they really should be. It's so bad that I've advised the family members who have been helping in this process. I've advised them to check on her not only physically to see if her coughing is getting worse and to make sure she's clear-headed, but I've also had them check on her emotionally and mentally because she does deal with depression, and this is a massive change that we're bringing into this house, or we're bringing out of the house. And so I think that this is one of the more dangerous situations that we've cleaned, not just for ourselves, but for her personally. Now, I've talked to her through every step of this process. I've checked on her to make sure she's emotionally and mentally okay. I told her if we need to take a breather day where you just step back and we stop the activity in the house, we're totally fine with that. But she is so ready for this to be done. She's like, no, I really want to power through it. I really want to get this stuff done. And she seems to be ready. She does have the problems that I run into on the most severe hoarding cases where she will pick out a couple things and then the control issues kick in and she'll be like, I don't want this to be thrown away. You're not throwing away this thing, are you? At one point, we threw away a couple of hand towels from the kitchen, and she found those in a trash can and got not angry, but she got confrontational about it. And I had to tell her point blank, look, when I picked those hand towels up, 100 roaches came off of them. They're absolutely infested. I told her as honestly as possible, look, if somebody calls in a wellness check and they see the conditions you're living in, they will take everything you own. You will not be allowed to keep anything. They will trash everything in your house. You will be kicked out of the house. You will likely be put into a home if you have nowhere to go, and you'll lose it all. So I would rather throw away the hand towels that are infested with roaches than to see you in a position where your choices are live in a house where we're making an effort to get it clean and safe again, or literally living on the streets. Because I can tell you they don't have the money to put her in a nursing home. So the problems with her house physically and mechanically it's like threefold. One of the reasons she doesn't have water is because her sewage line collapsed so nothing could drain. Then someone tried to make an attempt to fix it, but it wasn't a professional and they kind of messed it up. Then the basement has had a problem for years of flooding every time it thunderstorms. So right now she's got 5 feet of water in the basement, and I brought a pump with me with 2 hoses, and I've been pumping the water out of the basement for several days. We've gotten maybe half of it out right now. But in the process of the basement filling up, that's where the water heater was. And the water heaters, I mean, you put so much water around them and they float just like a boat. So the water caused it to pop up like a fishing bobber and it fell over, and now it just doesn't work. So in order to get her water done and hooked back up, they would first have to fix the sewer lines, which is going to be $3,000 to $7,000. Then they have to get her a new water heater. Then they're going to have to put it somewhere else besides the basement, which means rerouting all the plumbing. Then hook that back up, and likely they will have to route out or blow out all of her sewage lines and all of her drains, because they're so packed with nastiness and soil and sand and old food that water physically can't flow down them. And so however much a new water heater costs, I think the last time I had to put one in and buy it new and have it installed, it was like $5,000 to $7,000. So now you're up to anywhere from $10,000 to $14,000, not even counting the plumbing issues that it's going to, whatever that's going to cost to get that going again. I would say that she is about $20,000 away from having water and sewage in her house at this point. They do not have that kind of money. If I had my way, and I am still talking to the family about this, she would be taken out of that house permanently, and she would either have to find some room at a relative's house. She would have to leave everything she owns behind because all of it's toxic. Or they would have to come up with a way to get her into a nursing home. I'm really not comfortable with her living there at all. Now, in the meantime, her family is bringing her large jugs of water so that she can have stuff to drink. She can wash up at least a little bit, do some dishes at least by hand, not in the sink. And you'll see the sink in a minute and understand why she can't just do them in the sink. Now, this is a house that we had to tackle differently than most houses. She put her daughter and her granddaughter in charge of what goes and what stays. But you can tell she she doesn't fully trust them. I mean, she's stepped back and she's going in the right direction. But I think in any hoarder situation that's this severe, that remember, this is not a hoarder. This is a person with hoarding disorder. There's a huge distinction between the two. A hoarder just sounds like you're giving them an insult. Like this guy's a hoarder. He's a butthole. Like you're calling them a name. A person with hoarding disorder that's what it is. She's a person who has a disorder, and she's not greedy. She's not a slob. It's a mental illness. In doing that, in having her daughter and her granddaughter kind of steer the ship a little bit, that takes some control off of her plate, but it also puts us in a position where she doesn't understand how bad things are because she's not in there with us, and I don't want her in there with us. So, for instance, she had a bunch of boxes of clothes that she got at garage sales or thrift stores or wherever she bought them, and to her, they're new, so she didn't want those thrown away. But every time I pulled up one layer of clothes, and I mean like a shirt, 100 roaches would run out from underneath it. I'd pull up the next layer of shirts or pants, and another 50 would run out from that. So the boxes where she was storing the clothes were roach nests. And there is no saving that. You bring that to a laundromat, they're going to ban you from the laundromat. So for the first time in, I think, the channel's history, we just had to make the executive decision to say, no, she's not keeping the garage sale clothes. I know she wants to keep them. I know they're new to her. This is unfortunately, a too bad situation where when we pull up a pair of pants and 50 roaches run from underneath it, it means there are roach eggs embedded in the cloth. It means that they're toxic. Whatever disease the roaches may be carrying are now in the pants. Like it's not worth saving at this point. Not to mention she has so much clothes in the house that we're going to fill half of a 40-yard dumpster just with clothes. So yes, unfortunately, as bad as she wanted to save those things, we had to say, no, I'm sorry, we're putting our foot down. You can't keep the roach clothes. I mean, as you're watching this video, I'm sure you can see them crawling around everywhere, but they were so much worse in person. There's so many you're not seeing that are embedded like in the piles of clothes. And instead of crawling up and out of the boxes, they were crawling down into them. I mean, even the daughter and the granddaughter said that after we threw those away, they were sitting outside with her around some, like, with lawn chairs around an outside table. And they would look over toward the dumpster and see lines of bugs coming out of the dumpster from the clothes that we had put out there. And they were trying not to point it out to her. They were just like, oh my God, this is so bad. So anyway, what we're doing with this dining room is we've got to kind of treat it like a slide puzzle where we're going to take as much out as we can. The stuff that she's going to keep, we're just keeping in boxes where they're sitting right now since they're out of the way. So our biggest concern right now is giving her space enough to walk where she's not going to trip, because from what we understand, she's already fallen several times in this house. Then we have to go into storage rooms later, clean those up, get rid of stuff so that we can take the stuff that's being stored in the dining room and put it in the new storage room. So it's a very tricky situation where we have to move things from one room to another and then from that room to another so that we can find a legitimate, realistic storage solution for the things that she does want to keep. But for right now, a whole bunch of stuff just has to stay in the dining room. So we can get it 70% clean or 60% clean, but you won't see a true full-blown transformation of this room until we get the storage rooms done. A common problem that we run into with all of these houses, especially ones this severe, is that they hate seeing the stuff being thrown away so much that their next thing in line, their next coping mechanism is to say, well, we can donate a whole bunch of this other stuff. Like there's perfectly good clothes in there that could be donated to somebody who needs it. And then you have to, if you want to confront them about it and tell them this is fine, but I typically just act like they didn't even say it and just throw the stuff away. But you can't donate anything from a house like this, not one item. And one of the reasons is not only will they not take it at donation centers because it's infested with bugs and it smells like ammonia, but the second you put that in a drop box with other donations, good donations that other people have done, you've now contaminated the good donations that they could have used for the store. So anybody who's worked in a donation center can back me up on this. Donating items that are this bad costs them an extreme amount of money because then they have to fill their own dumpsters with those clothes and they have to pay for the trash removal instead of the owner of the house having to pay for the trash removal. In this case, we're paying for it. So to give you an idea of how bad it is to get rid of trash in a place like this, one 40-yard dumpster rented for 2 weeks costs $920, and that is the cheapest one that we can find in our area. This is oftentimes why the owner can't do it on their own, because they don't have the money for trash removal, and even if they did, they don't know where to start because their house is literally built like a dump. This is how you see the conditions at a dump, is the stuff just piled and piled and piled, and it's infested with roaches and mice and all that. And so that's not insulting the person who lives here, but those conditions are equal. And the problem a lot of times is you can't confront people with this knowledge because they take it as an insult. They get offended. It causes them an emotional breakdown. And you as a cleaner are not really qualified or prepared to handle somebody's emotional breakdown like that. I mean, I can tell you guys this because I think it's educational and I think that it's a good thing to know this information. But the dumpster that we were using to put stuff in was more sanitary than the house we were taking the trash out of. And I think that says a lot because it's not just this house, it's most of the houses that I help. But this is one of the big reasons that family is really important in situations like this, is they typically know the person better and they know how to talk to them in a way to get through to them most of the time. And sometimes they can make them understand in ways that I can't communicate. So in this case, the family came to her and said, hey, just so you're aware, I can never bring my kids here. I personally can't go in your house. And with your health conditions, there is a real legitimate chance that you can die in here. I mean, she already has emphysema, and when that ammonia attaches to the moisture inside of her lungs, it's just going to make it worse and worse and worse until she ends up full-blown hospitalized. And if a fire happens to break out in any one of these rooms, it's game over. That thing will go up like a Roman candle, and there's nothing you can do to get out in time. Most of the fatalities in a hoarding situation happen because of fires. So while we're at it, I apologize for some of these shots in this kitchen. They're not the best shots that I've used in videos, but the kitchen was so hoarded that we had no place to put the camera. So we just kind of had to make do and find the best shot we could possibly get and just kind of deal with it. The kitchen took us 2 days, and the way we handled it, since she didn't have water, was that we got rid of all the trash and all the expired food. Most of the expired food expired in 2013, so 12 years ago. Then we got 2 large tubs, and we started putting all the dirty, savable dishes in those, and then we just took them back to my house, and I just did dishes all night. This first day, I started cleaning around noon. We finished up around 3 or 4, something like that. We spent 3 or 4 hours here, and then once we had the 2 tubs of dishes, I took them back to my house. I cleaned and sanitized those until 10:30 at night. In order to clean the surfaces, since we didn't have water, I started out using Mr. Clean's Clean Freak because it's really good at cutting through grease, and I'm not sponsored by them. I use it. It's the best thing that I use. And then I sanitize it with a mixture of water, isopropyl alcohol, and Dawn dish soap. I use Dawn because it seems to be the best. If you're not in an area that gets Dawn, really just any powerful dish soap will work. The ratio that I use to sanitize, if I'm sanitizing, it's just straight 70% isopropyl alcohol and then a few drops of Dawn dish soap. If you're using 90% strength isopropyl alcohol, you need to cut that down because 90 it evaporates so fast it doesn't have time to actually kill the bacteria and germs. So you'll want to cut that down to 70% by adding about 20% water, 30% water. And then you just spray it on a surface that you're wanting to sanitize and walk away, basically until it dries. I mean, you can walk away for 2 or 3 minutes, and that's plenty of time for it to sanitize. If it's still wet after that, just wipe it down, and it does have the added benefit that it really shines up surfaces that are hard, like a laminate or stone countertops, mirrors, metal, glass. Normally, I don't put that stuff on wood or any painted surfaces because alcohol can thin paint. In a place like this, I don't care if the paint's thinned. All I'm concerned about is detoxifying this house. Couple side notes. Every time you see a cut happen in this video where we just kind of pop from one area to the other or we change a scene, we're changing gloves. We've gone through about 100 pairs of gloves so far in this house, and we've only worked there for 3 or 4 days. We also change out masks. I'm wearing an N95 mask. Jason's wearing a full-blown respirator. And every rag that we use on every surface all get thrown away. I'm not going to chance having to try to clean these things up. Technically, I could get away with it. I could wash them in a hot cycle with regular everyday detergent and maybe a little bit of bleach, and they would be sanitized. But every bit of this kitchen and dining room is covered in a thick layer of grease and oil that is just kind of aerosoled through the air over the years whenever she's frying things or using cooking spray, and it's just settled on everything. So every single thing in her kitchen and her dining room is covered in grease, and I don't want to take that home with me, especially with all the bugs and stuff that's in the house. So all the rags that we use go straight in the trash. If you're ever doing this for a relative or a friend and you're using a respirator, read the directions on the respirator, because those filters in there need to be changed every so often. You can't just use one respirator forever. Like after several hours or a day's work, you need to pop the covers off and change the filter on the inside of it. Most of them come with extra filters, but I don't think a lot of people know that about respirators. They do need the filter pads changed. And this is really important. I get anywhere from 50 to 100 messages per week on Facebook and email from people saying, I know you don't come to my state, but my grandfather's house is in this exact condition. Where do I even start? You start with a dumpster if you can afford it. If not, contact the city. They may have a program or a grant that you can use to get one. Sometimes cities will just provide a dumpster if they know a house is in really bad condition, in order to avoid fires and infestations and stuff like that. It's like a prevention measure. So check with your city. If you can't afford one, they may have one that some sort of program you can use. Step 2 is throwing away as much as humanly possible. Don't worry about organization or cleaning whatsoever. Just go through one room at a time and get rid of absolutely everything that you can get rid of. If the person who lives in the house is fine with you getting rid of everything, literally get rid of everything, because the things like Tupperware and stuff can be replaced. And that's what we ran into with this one. If you've got plastic, it's going to absorb the toxicity. If you have anything that's wood, wooden spoons, wooden cutting boards, rolling pins, all that stuff is just absorbing mouse pee and mouse poop and ammonia, and you can't really sanitize those things. You could boil some of them and get rid of some of that toxicity, but come on, it's most of the wooden spoons and stuff are like $2 at Walmart. Just get rid of them, get new. Once you have the trash part done, now you take everything off of the surfaces, and I do it one section at a time. So I'll just take off everything from one section of countertop, clean and sanitize that countertop and the cabinets around it. Then before you put the stuff that you're going to save back into place, clean those the same way you clean the countertops, with some sort of degreaser or a Mr. Clean or some sort of all-purpose cleaner that gets rid of grease. Then follow that up with the alcohol mixture. If alcohol isn't your thing, bleach works just fine. Just look up the mixture and the ratio of bleach to water online, and they'll tell you how much to use in order to get true sanitization. The only reason I don't use bleach is because I'm allergic to it, and I did break my rule about bleach when I did dishes from this house. I put bleach in the dishwater. I just constantly rinsed my hands while I was using it. It's not a big allergy to the point to where it's going to put me in the hospital or anything. I just break out in really bad hives whenever I touch bleach. But the biggest advice that I can give you is use the dumpster while you have it. Concentrate on your trash first, because if you rent the dumpster for a week and it takes you 2 weeks to get the trash out, now you're just screwed and you're having to pay for a second dumpster. But once you get done with that, take it one section at a time. Do not think I'm cleaning the kitchen. Think I'm cleaning this 3-foot or this 5-foot section of countertop and nothing else. And take frequent breaks. There are times where Jason and I will work for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll stop and take a 5 or 10 minute break, because when you're dealing with a house that's this bad, I don't think it's healthy to jump in and work on it for 8 hours straight. You need to get out of there. You need to get some air. Yes, even if you're using a mask and a respirator, you need to step outside, air yourself off, air your brain off, and then come back in and do the next section. So basically, I'll say what we're going to do for the next 5 minutes to a half hour is clean and clear and make safe this countertop. And then when we're done with that part, we take a break. Then we'll come in and we'll take another section of countertop and do the same thing. When you're dealing with food, I want to give you 2 things here that may help you, because sometimes you're going to have to be confrontational about some of this. The things that people with hoarding disorder tend to latch onto really badly is clothing and food. The food is the most important part. You're going to go through there and you're going to find stuff that expired a long time ago. And you're going to get those people who say, well, food expiration dates are more of a suggestion. They're not really real. They're just manufactured by the companies and all this. And you have to stop and tell them, this expired in 2013. This is 12 years that this has sat here unused. You have not eaten this or touched it in 12 years, and you're telling me that now, right now, that's when you're going to get hungry for it. And instead of spending $1.50 for a new can of green beans, you're going to tell me that you would rather eat the 12-year-old can of green beans. Let's get rid of it. I will literally buy you new food. Like, that's what I do. I know most people don't have that ability to restock somebody's cabinets, but if they haven't touched it in a year or more, it should go. Like, there's not a point where they're suddenly tonight going to be like, you know what I haven't had in ages? Crushed pineapple. I think I've got a 7-year-old can of crushed pineapple down there, and I think I'll open that and eat that tonight. If they haven't touched it in that long, they're not going to touch it. And you can use the same kind of mentality whenever you're dealing with clothes to say, look, you've had this sitting in a pile for the last 10 years, 15 years. It's out of style. It's covered in roach poop and roach eggs. You have 700 shirts. Like, realistically, I think in this house she has a few hundred shirts just by itself, not even counting pants and all of the extras. Most people, at best, need about 2 weeks worth of clothing. That if their washer decided to quit right now, they could go the next 2 weeks without having to worry about running out of clothes. If you have so much clothing that you can go a few years without wearing the same thing twice, it's time to pare this down, because at this point, this is no longer your house. It's no longer your space. The space is owned by the things that you possess. So the clothes own the house. The old expired food owns the house. The roaches and the mice own the house. It's no longer yours, it's theirs. So at some point, you have to almost get pissed off and say, I've had it. This is my house. These are my rules. This is my space, and I'm not allowing rodents and vermin and bacteria to live here anymore. I told this woman before I even started, or I told her granddaughter to convey this to her, I will only do this house if she agrees to get rid of 75% of everything she owns. Now, she did agree to it. I don't know if she'll actually do that or not. I'm going to make an attempt, because I can't let her stay there in that condition. If she's going to stay there, and she's going to stay there no matter what we tell her, no matter what we try to do, she's going to just be bullheaded and not leave that house. But if she's going to stay there, the least I can do is make it safe for her to stay there as far as the cleanliness of the house and to get rid of the toxicity in the house. But like next week, that's where things are going to get hard. This week was easy. It was physically demanding, but it was emotionally hard. Next week is going to be really difficult, because that's when she's going to have to start making decisions on, hey, we're going to hand you 10 pieces of clothing. 7 of those need to go in the trash. And then we're going to keep doing that until we've gone through every piece of clothing that you own. Every 10 that we hand you, you can only keep 3. And we'll have to do that with her dishes, her silverware, everything that actually really genuinely does work, like vacuum cleaners that still work. They are infested with roaches right up into the mechanics, right inside the tubes. There's no cleaning them. There's no saving them. They have to go in the trash. There's going to be electronics that still work, but they're taking up space, they're not used, and they're housing infestations. But we have to be able to look at her and say, yep, I know you paid real world money for this. I know it still works. I know it still has a purpose. No, you can't give it to somebody else. It has to go in the dumpster. And that's going to be really difficult for her. I mean, the alternative is that all this stuff stays and she's right back in the position that she was in before we came there. I mean, at some point, somebody has to hammer it into her that if you can't walk from one side of your room to the other, it's not safe. It's not clean. It's not ready for you to live in. And every single room of hers couldn't be traversed by more than one person. We had to go in a single file line just to get through her dining room. 2 people at one point couldn't fit in her kitchen at the same time. She has a couple bedrooms that you can't even enter as a single person. I'll have to take things out of it before I can get myself in there. If you are helping somebody who's in this situation, you're going to have to be patient, because you have to remember that a lot of what you're dealing with is not choice. It is a mental illness, and you're going to have to keep reminding yourself that. I know I say it all the time on this site, but you still have people who are like, well, that's not a mental illness. That's just laziness. And those are people who have never studied this disorder. It is a frightening break in the human mind. And one of the things you're going to have to deal with is being straight up honest with them and saying the solution solution for this is not restacking your items to make more room. You have to get rid of some stuff, like a lot of stuff. Because in the mind of many people with hoarding disorder, the solution is to take everything out, clean it, and then restack it in a more organized manner, but not actually get rid of anything. And that's like an alcoholic saying, well, the solution to me breaking this alcoholism isn't for me to quit drinking beer. It's for me to find a way for my liver to process more of it so that I can have more beer. I have to just find a way to convince my family members and my friends and the people I love that my alcoholism isn't destroying their lives in the process. I just need them to be able to accept me for who I am and allow me to continue drinking. So the person with hoarding disorder, the very first step, and it's one of the hardest ones to do, is for them to finally have a point in their life where they realize, okay, I have hoarding disorder. This is a thing that exists in my brain. No, it doesn't mean I'm crazy. No, it doesn't mean that I'm broken to the point where I can't be repaired, but this is a thing in my head that most people don't have, and I'm going to have to learn how to manage it and deal with it. But before they get to that point, you as the person who's helping them are going to have to deal with a whole bunch of excuses. You're going to have to deal with a whole bunch of blame. They will look you dead in the eye and say, well, no, the reason this house is like this is because the kids wouldn't pick up after themselves. Or the reason it's like this is because you personally lived here for a long time and you keep bringing your stuff over to my house and nobody ever helps me. I'm doing this by myself and I don't get help from anybody ever. And they'll point the finger elsewhere because pointing it inward is really, really embarrassing and it stings and it feels bad. But once they do hit that point in their lives where they're mentally ready to say, no, I have a problem. I understand this is a mental illness. It's one of the most liberating things they'll ever go through. Because once they do that and they admit that there's a problem, it becomes much easier for them to get rid of stuff because they can stop themselves when they feel the overwhelming urge to dig through the trash. They can stop and say, this is the illness. This is not me. This is the illness. I need to back up. And it's not easy. It's really, really hard. It's hard even on me, a perfect stranger who's coming into this house, because I know that by the end of this cleanup, I will take a lot of blame for things that she's lost. So she won't look at the house as this is a situation that got out of my control, and I don't physically and mentally have the ability to keep up with this without a full-blown reset button where I throw away 75% of everything I own in this entire house. It just has to go. Instead, it will be a month from now, she'll be looking for something kind of inconsequential, but at the moment, it will seem like the most important thing ever. And she won't be able to find it. And then she will immediately go, yeah, those guys that came in the house, they just threw all my stuff away and then left. That will happen. And I know it's going to happen. It's happened many times before with many other people that I've helped. And I don't take it personally because I know it's a mental illness even if they don't. And if unloading their anger on me is the consequence of them living in squalor versus living in a clean, safe environment, then I don't care if they blame me or not. Sure, tell me I threw it away. That's fine. I'm okay with that idea. One less piece of electronics in the house is one less place for a roach to make its home. One less box of expired macaroni is one less food source for a mouse. I threw away your favorite vacuum. I threw away 2,000 roaches that had a full-blown nest inside that vacuum. I threw away your favorite rug. No, I threw away a pitch black urine-soaked piece of cloth that was producing ammonia so fast that you couldn't breathe when you walked. And that's what you have to let them know. You need to get it across to them that I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm not doing it out of anger. I'm not doing it to punish you for the condition of the house. I'm doing it because you can live in a safe, clean place where you're healthy, and you don't have to live in a place that's like this that's making you sicker by the minute.
Moose plate.
Oh,
Moose plate.
If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please do. That's the free one. There's two buttons. There's a subscribe button and a join button. The join button is for the paid memberships. The subscribe button is just the way to show support for the channel. It's totally free. And the more people who do that, the closer we get to getting our 1,000,000 subscriber gold plaque. And that's all I ask in return for the channel is I just want the gold plaque because it looks cool. I just want to hang it in my office. Anyway, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button while you're at it. And all that being said, members, I will see you this Wednesday. Everybody else, I'll see you next weekend. Later.